take all of the healing modalities that exist, and you use you use what's appropriate at that moment for the person, because no one healing modality has all the answers. If you've got a baby coming out feet first, you don't go to an herbalist. It's just not going to work for you, right? Right? You broke a leg. So you've got to know who to use when. And that's basically what a good integrative oncologist will be able to do. But you've got to be well aware of therapies that are non-toxic and that are healing and all that. And then the one thing that nobody gets, and I don't know why, is that diet is probably, it's so foundational that for it to be overlooked is just mind-boggling. If you took your horse to a veterinarian, he would open the mouth, take a look at the teeth, and then ask you one question: what do you feed it? That's it. That's it, right? So anyway, but that's always overlooked, and that to me is central in my the way I view health.
Not only do the doctors not know physically what's going on, and they just want to treat the symptoms, not the problem, but emotionally they'll destroy somebody if you don't know how to handle it. And that's really where the breakdown comes. That's why I tell everybody, make your health decisions now while you're healthy, or at least healthy thinking. Don't wait till you're under an emotional state to decide what you want to do. Make now, saying, if I ever in that situation, this is who I call, this is who I'm going to listen to, and this is what I will
Yeah.
do. Don't make that when you're under a state of stress where you've been told you had a week to live, and at that point, you're not, one of the smartest things I learned in life was never, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, never make an important decision when you're highly emotional,
Yep.
and regardless of what it is. So I try to surround myself now in my life with people that can help me. So if something goes on, I know who I'm going to go to when that particular thing's going on.
That what the point you just made is so vital, so essential. Um, the studies bear this out. When someone is in fear, they now know that they will actually do something if an authority tells them they will do something that they know is going to harm them. You have to realize that that's how much fear paralyzes it. You lose access to your prefrontal cortex, which is reasoning. It's called the amygdala hijacking. The amygdala, which is the seat of fear, overtakes everything, and you no longer can make rational decisions. Number one, and number two, you've wiped out your immune system. So, and that's why you don't use that word, that astrological sign. Don't ever say that you have a Sagittarius or a Virgo inside of your body, because you don't. All right, you've got chronically fermenting cells. Don't use that word. Guard your guard your mind, because your mind can turn off everything or turn on everything. All right, because the opposite of fear is faith, and faith is when you know what's going to happen before it happens. Right? You don't believe it, you know it. Because remember, if you believe something, you also doubt it. So knowing is knowing. All right. So when you know you're going to heal, you heal. I had a woman, I think I've told the story before, advanced stage 4 breast. It was in her lung. She couldn't breathe. She went to her oncologist, the warlock in the House of Horrors. And he said to her, "You don't have 3 weeks." They brought her to my clinic on a gurney. She couldn't sit up. She was on oxygen right in the middle of our clinic. And I walked up to her to say hi. She grabbed my arm and she said, "Thank God. Now I know I'm going to make it." 6 weeks later, she was jogging to the clinic. And 8 years later, I got a postcard from Paris. Because why? She said, "I know I'm going to make it." And that reminds me, the story of the woman that ran up the stairs to touch the robe of Jesus to get healed, because she knew it. And he turned and he said, "It wasn't me, it was your faith." That's what faith is. So faith, if you can tune into that, you're healed.
I think it was you years ago, you said, uh, you're not necessarily against the chemo or radiation if it's used the right way in the right amounts. But the problem with the hospital is they just flood the whole body with it and destroy everything good. But under circumstances, if used in the pinpoint radiation and chemo, it can be useful. Was that you that told me that? I believe it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
years ago.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it can be
Okay.
life saving. If we,
Yeah.
for example, you got a tumor growing in your brain quickly, we've got to radiate. There's no, otherwise you're dead. It's on your spine. You're gonna get paralyzed. We've got to radiate. There are situations you never do radiation on soft tissue, because you're going to wind up destroying that tissue. But on bones and brain, stuff like that, it's surgery. You're about to block off your colon, and you won't. We've got to do surgery. Chemo. I use chemo with low dose and insulin when things are starting to get out of hand and I've got to move quickly. And the reason I use insulin is because I can give 10% and get a higher amount of the chemo in the tumor and not other places. So it's kind of a way of targeting, you know. If you're going to poison somebody, at least do it in a rational way. Make sure you hit the target and not anything else.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. So yes, so integrative oncology is using everything available when necessary, and that's the thing to know. You got to know when to do it. But by giving high dose chemo, I'll show you. There's at least 100 studies showing you that it will definitely cause metastasis. The body is so complex. Nobody will ever understand it except God. Okay, so not any special AI. So all we can ever do is bow down. Remember what Solomon said: the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. It's not the fear of God; it's the acknowledgement of the truly omnipotent. We don't understand with omnipotent. And I think before we die, or at the moment of death, we finally fall to our knees and say, "Okay, God, I get it. It's your show." You know, yeah. So anyway, the point is this: that no one will ever understand the body. 37 sextillion, 21 zeros, chemical reactions every second. 37 million new cells made every second. Someone going to understand that? And what happens to be really detrimental over here is actually very important over here in my body at the same time. And whatever I'm going to do to starve a CFC, I'm also going to starve my healthy cells. So when you realize you can't figure it out, don't. Just say, thank you, God, and balance it. Restore balance, and believe me, it'll work. So that's what we have to do.
Here's
That's
the
right.
thing. Let me say this to everyone is a wonderful creator showed us these things. You don't have to go to medical school. You don't have to be a scientist. It's simple. The food looks like what it's good for, and if you watch the plants, you could see what we're supposed to do. So a carrot, if you cut it open, it looks like two eyes. The nutrition in a carrot is good for the eyesight. The celery mimics the bones. And the nutrition in celery is good for the bones. A walnut, the oils in a walnut are good for the brain. It looks like a brain. But here's the thing. So the food looks like what it's good for. But here it goes, folks. Is I'm a farmer. I grow fruit trees. I grow gardens. The plants need three things to survive and thrive: sunlight, water, and nutrition. You get the nutrition and good nutritious soil. You get the sunlight by giving the tree enough room to get the sun and not shade it out. And then you give it enough water to be able to support what it's doing. The body is the same way. You give the body those three things and sleep for your healing, you're set.
Listen,
You're set. And then if you've messed that up, you go to somebody like Dr. Lodi, and he's gonna help you get back to a place. But the key is you don't have to understand every way, every cell in the body, but you need to mimic what's working in the way it was created to design. And is there anything I said there that you disagree with, or you can expound on? It works. It
no,
works. Look, yeah.
what you're saying is just make sure that all the biological requirements are there, and then
Yeah.
it hums. It's fun. That's what's happening. And to think that there is something external that's going to produce healing is a misunderstanding. Healing is innate to the organism, right? You can go to a surgeon because you have this really large cut on your arm, right? A slash. All the surgeon can do is bring the edges together, but you have to heal it. The healing comes from within. Okay, it's innate to the biology.
Dr. Lodi, what do you want to share before we close? What you want your closing message to be to everyone that's watching?
Yeah, and that is In fact, I need to write a book or have a course online about this, and it's called psycholinguistics. And we have to understand that the words in our mind are how we see the world. If you have a word, if you don't have a word for something, it doesn't exist. You have to realize how powerful that is. Remember, God spoke the universe into existence, right? Let there be, right? And the word was with God, the word was God. In the beginning was the word. So the word, these are very important. And the reason I'm saying that to you is that to guard your health, to guard your being, be careful of the words that you are exposed to and that you utter. Uh, remember, okay, so remember, it's not what goes in the man's mouth that defiles him, it's what comes out of it, right? Anyway, but here's the thing, don't listen to them. There's no such thing as diseases, there's no such thing as cancer. All that stuff is a Rockefeller story. I want you to understand just one thing. Your body was designed by God. It's perfect. All you got to do is make sure it has what it needs and it'll hum. And that's exactly what Paul was saying. So, but I want you to be careful of the words. You have to understand every time you hear, if you have lupus and you're sitting there in a restaurant and somebody says lupus, immediately you get stabbed in the heart. If you have CFCs and somebody says cancer, you get, so you can't even be around those words. You might think this is hyperbole or I'm exaggerating, but I'm very, very serious. Don't listen to those words because they paralyze your immune system. Change your language and then other than that, uh, that's a hard one. But other than that, just follow the sun. Go to bed right after it, and then be up in the morning to greet it when it comes up. All right. Eat food that grows, real food, and that's it's very very simple. I promise you, all the problems you have will go away because they only exist because of our failure to ensure that our biological and psychological needs are being met.
It also says in the Bible, my people destroy for lack of knowledge. So if we don't have
Mm.
that knowledge and we've already gotten a situation, I would go to a person like Dr. Lodi or Dr. Lodi himself, and he's at the top of my list. I would go to him and I would get his advice on what to do.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the raw life health show.